2019 Board Workshop of the Manatee County School Board. And we're going to start here with reports and presentations with an update from Bob Christopher and Diana Dill. If you'd come up to the rostrum, we'd appreciate it. We welcome you. And Mr. Christopher had a hard morning of exercise out on the street, and doing his best. Okay.
You're much younger and you run much.
Well, thank you. Okay.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, board chair, members, superintendent, and staff. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to present the Citizens Financial Oversight Committee report through December 31st of 2018. The financials, some of the actions have gone through March 19th, and you'll see that as we go through. Message from our board chair, Bob Christopher, shares with you that our review included accessing unaudited financial records of the district and compiling and summarizing detailed records into the data included in this report. We performed certain analytical procedures to verify our conclusions. We also relied upon representations of the district administration, board members, and internal audit procedures of restricted funds in reaching our conclusions. Subject to the limitations set forth herein, it is our finding that tracking and accounting of expenditure amounts were in compliance with the operating budget established by the administration of the district and approved by the board for the 6 months ending December 31st, 2018, and the budget year 2018-19, with exceptions noted in this report on slide 9 and 11. The Citizens Financial Oversight Committee was created through the Manatee County School District approval and adoption on November 14th, with the subsequent vote in favor of the 1 mil increase in the operating ad valorem millage by the constituents of Manatee County in the special election. More specifically, the ballot summary question language approved in the resolution stated the funds generated by the 1 mil increase to the operating would be overseen by an independent citizens committee, and also would be provided would provide the millage increase for should it be provided the millage increase for Manatee County schools approved. A financial oversight committee appointed by the school board shall issue an annual report to ensure proper fiscal stewardship of the funds. In addition, the committee shall identify relevant outcomes and report results to the community. The school board appointed the initial members of the committee in 2018 who serve subject to the committee charter approved by the school board. The mission of the Citizens Financial Oversight Committee is to identify and measure relevant outcomes and report results to the board, the administration, and the community. It is also to provide oversight to ensure proper fiscal stewardship of operating funds provided by the special election, approving a 1 mil increase in the school ad valorem tax. The operation and the organization of the committee and subcommittees. The committee was formed, as we just mentioned here, for the board, for the school board, in order to create a more workable environment and to take advantage of certain committee members' knowledge base and talent. Subcommittees were formed with 5 members each. All subcommittee recommendations are brought to the entire committee for vote and approval. The operations and organization of the committee and the subcommittee. We have the Data Analytics Committee, which does the research, identify and gather key Manatee County school data, financial data points central to the fiscal and student success of the district that can be analyzed and reported to the school board and stakeholders of the community. It is our intention to develop a matrix for a dashboard of fiscal indicators to help track district mission outcomes and guide responsible use of resources going forward. The second committee is our Revenue and Expense Deployment Efficacy Committee. This committee reviews the revenue and the expense allocations for the district to ensure the designated purpose of the resources is being realized and deployed as prescribed by the district stakeholders. And we also have the Communications Transparency Committee to ensure activities and findings of the Citizens Financial Committee and clearly communicate to the school board, district stakeholders in a simple to understand and non-biased manner. The committee goal in defining terms. The committee will focus on measurable and quantifiable relevant outcomes with the use of the funds generated by the 1 mil and on money coming in and money coming out to ensure proper fiscal stewardship of the restricted funds generated by the 1 mil increase. The resolution revenue will be the revenue generated from the 1 mill. Core revenue is all other general fund revenue. And the resolution expenditures are the expenditures that are restricted from the revenue source of the 1 mill. Committee actions through March 19th, 2019. The item of recommendations and actions, the committee recommended to the board workshop on February 12th to adopt a resolution setting forth principles for maintaining core budget increases consistent with economic conditions and to allow referendum revenues to provide incremental increases in budgeted operating expense items represented to voters for such revenues. From the board, there has been no action taken. Next, the item of recommendations and actions, a referendum capital budget item of $2,200,000 for laboratory equipment for facilities at Parish Community High School and other sites. Capital facilities improvement expenditures are not qualifying expenditures from referendum funds. The board response was the board and administration have agreed to this restriction of the capital facilities improvements and are currently researching additional clarifying information on this topic. Another item of recommendation and action. The committee recommended that the state required 3% of revenue reserve and cost associated with tax advancement notes be taken from the referendum revenue. And the board response, the board and administration are providing for the required reserves and costs associated with the tax advancement notes. The fringe benefit costs allocated to referendum budget expenses. The committee was advised by the administration of an issue with the current accounting system over allocating certain payroll benefit cost categories to referendum expenditures. The administration has corrected for this misallocation. Thus, amounts included in this report are reflective of proper allocations, and the administration is also in the process of correcting the misallocation in the system. Just for Girls' request for inclusion and allocation of the referendum revenue. The committee and the board determined that contract schools were not included in the allocation of referendum benefits. The committee recommended that the board provide benefits comparable to the referendum amounts where appropriate. And the board's response was the board has elected not to provide an adjustment of benefits comparable to referendum amounts for Just for Girls. The Data Analytics Subcommittee.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Diane,
Board Member Kennedy.
thank you. I just wanted, this is just a vocabulary correction, I guess, not even correction, but on page 10, it's noted on it's the committee action through the 19th. It's the third to last. It says number 10 on mine. And just so we're all using the same terminology, that's a tax anticipation note, is what that's what TAN stands for.
Okay.
Not tax advancement. So just so the committees are.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you.
On to the Data Analytics Subcommittee. This subcommittee examines the goals set forth by the referendum to find the measurable data points to track the efficacy of the additional funds provided by the referendum.
Ms. Dill, hold on.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes, go ahead, Board Member Golden.
not quite so sure. I just, I have a question as it relates to the 3% revenue reserve that's required
Yes.
in conjunction with the recommendation that we adopt a resolution setting forth principles for maintaining core budget increases. And I'm tying them together because I'm wondering if the tax anticipation notes if that reserve can be taken from the referendum revenue. Is this a recommendation of the committee? Did we ascertain from our finance administrators that this can be done? And if so, what was the principle involved in maintaining the core budget increases consistent with economic conditions? Because it sounds like that's a little bit more than just, I think the 3% reserve requirement is not just for monies raised through the referendum, but that's the totality of our our budget. Am I right about that? So how was this incorporated as a goal of the Citizens Financial Oversight Committee, and was there any input from the administration in making this recommendation?
Board Member Golden, I think staff has some enlightenment for all of us regarding that. Heather, would you like to?
Yes, sir. The referendum funds are recorded in the general fund. So 3% of our general fund revenues we have to hold that to meet state requirements for our fund balance. When you add the referendum dollars to our normal funding amount, it increases the percentage. So we met with the committee and had discussions, and we've all had discussions about how the 3%, we need to hold 3% from the referendum dollars. It is acceptable, recommended, and legal. In regards to core expenses, it was a goal when we applied the referendum not to replace our current expenditures, but to be able to do new things to aid in the increasing of salaries and our programming. So I believe that's what the committee's referring to, and they can provide additional information.
But just a minute, I don't want to belabor the point, but if the goal of the referendum dollars was to do new things and to create additional opportunities for improving the system, and the 3% reserve requirement was already there, are you saying that it's not, the reserve requirement was not there before the referendum was?
The reserve requirement was there, but the referendum has increased that requirement to approximately $1.2 million more than what our requirement would have been without it. When you add the $37 million to the core general revenue funds, it does increase the percent requirement.
Okay, and that has been determined to be a permissible expenditure.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Board Member Golden. Okay, please proceed.
Back to the Data Analytics Subcommittee, examining the goals set forth by the referendum and finding the measurable data points to track the efficacy of the additional funds provided by the referendum. The focus areas and related measurables, number one is teacher attraction and retention. So we're looking at the number of vacancies, number of out-of-field teachers, teacher retention and turnover, number of teachers who qualify for the best and brightest. For the STEM programs, we're looking at the number of STEM programs added, number of students participating in STEM programs, student performance in STEM fields year over year, and the students' interest in STEM fields. How we're tracking the data is we are currently working with the school district's Human Resources Department to track all the information relative to all of the teachers, any of the staffing. We are also working with we have made a proposal with the school district to conduct a year-end survey of teachers to collect feedback about impact of the overall additional compensation, about the referendum, and their overall job satisfaction. We have also proposed that the school district conduct exit interviews to determine the factors that are leading teachers to leave the district. We are also working with the Director of Assessment and Accountability, who tracks the student performance and program data for the school district. So we'll be tracking also the STEM information. And again, we propose that the school district conduct a year-end survey of the students graduating to track what these students intend to do post-graduation. We want to track how many of the students are going into the STEM field upon graduation, going to a technical school or other certificate program in the STEM field, as well as intend to major in a STEM field at a college or university. Though we've been able to track some data related to the teacher attraction and retention, this is the first year with the referendum in effect, so it's really too early at this point to report any definitive results. We are looking forward to continuing to track the information through June 30th and anticipate having an additional report for our year end for you as well at that point. What we feel very strongly about, what we'd like the board to know is that at this time we've been working with the school district to develop the framework to track all of the relevant information, and they've been very cooperative, and we're moving forward with that. The Revenue and Expense Deployment Efficacy Subcommittee. The first frame here is for the referendum budget versus the actual expenses that you'll see in the different allocation for staffing. The dark green amounts are the actual through December 31st from the school district. And then, of course, the lighter green is the budget. The next page is the report of the referendum budget and the expenditures. By program, you'll see the different allocations for STEM, instructional staff, AFSCME, SAMP, paraprofessionals, and the charter schools for the estimated $37 million for the referendum. And then the expenses as of year end, 12/31/18. For here in program, I would like to mention that the budget amounts here have not been adjusted for the reclassification of the facility construction amount. That was the 2.2 million, so that is still under review. Also, the information reflecting benefit allocations are still under subject for review. The next page is the allocations by employee group as established by the board and the district administration. You'll see the allocation of the referendum by percentage for staff, the instructional staff, the hourly, SAMP, school administrators, and paraprofessionals. The next page goes into the budget allocation detail. And again, you'll see here a different format of the instructional staff, their percentage, the total revenue, as well as the allocation by category. And that continues on the next slide. The next page is the recap of the STEM budget, specifically with the allocation for the salaries, the benefits, supplies, all of the detail there. Career education, the instructional training, so the total STEM allocation of $5.779 million. The next page is a recap of the key expense data, an analysis of the increase or decrease in the selected data. And again, here we listed as the referendum funding, the core funding, and then the total. The analysis is continued to the next page. Showing the expenses and then the income as well. The next section is the report of the referendum budget and expenditure, referendum and core expenditures. The amount reported by the district, function, and then expense. And then in comparison to the core of last year. So this one will show you the reference of the increase, including the referendum funding, the core funding, and then the overall total budget for the school district. Broken into salary, benefits, purchased services, materials, capital outlay, and other. The next page is the amount reported by the district, function and expense. And again, breaking down the detail and then also showing you the actual expenditures for 12/31/17 in comparison for the core. And then we have the end of the report here that shows the comparative periods between the 2018 and 2017. And this is by the district function and expense.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes, sir. Board Member Kennedy.
Okay, Diana, I have a couple things. Could you start the clock? Um, Could you refresh my memory on, I remember the 2.2 on the capital issue that the committee has come back with a recommendation, staff has responded. Could you remind me, though, about what is the issue with benefits?
The fringe benefits, it was a classification, I believe, of,
Well, some of the benefits taken from referendum dollars were only the increased benefits that occurred from the additional time in the salary raise.
Oh, gotcha.
The system allocated all benefits. And Mrs. Jenkins identified the problem, she quantified it and removed it from the expenses. I don't know where she is in the system corrections, but that's,
The allocation program, when we run payroll, had actually allocated health insurance and life insurance to the referendum coding, which it should go to the parent line. And we have, we corrected up to this month, so each month we are performing those corrections. And our system administrator is also changing that within the system to ensure the problem doesn't continue to occur.
those benefits don't go up because you get a salary.
Okay, gotcha. I just completely blanked on that, that's why I had to
I
ask.
know there were a lot of numbers and tables here. The sum of that, rather than dragging it through it, only an accountant could love so these schedules. But it really reinforces that the board has met its obligation of continuing to meet increases in the core expenses and that the referendum dollars are going to enhance the program. So we're confirming the principle with the board.
Thank you.
And we agree with that. The board has met our desires as well as yours.
Thank you.
And Mr. Minor,
Okay, Board Member Kennedy.
Mr. Christopher, don't go far.
yeah.
Might pull you back in again. But Diana, I noticed on, I'm gonna go back to,
Page.
I think it's, I think it's page 10. It's kind of the overview slide to start that section. Sorry, page 20, page 20. And I'm looking at the instructional staff referendum line, which is 14,720. Which is our, yep, there we go. So as of 12/31/18, we've spent 7.8 million.
That's, those are referendum dollars.
Correct, correct. So assuming the second semester, for lack of a better term, is the same, that's going to take us to about 15.5 million, whereas we've got 19 million set aside.
It won't extrapolate that way because of contract negotiations and retro pay increases. That is backloaded. There still will be, go ahead though, I don't mean to correct you. I'm not,
That's a good point, though. So it's not apples to apples,
go ahead.
first to second semester, okay. But there's still going to be an overage, which is really what I want to get back to. And I know the committee has discussed it before about how do we handle, if we're going to have a chunk of money left over on June 30, 2019, what do we do with that? What do we do with that? And I'm just curious if the committee has come back to that at all?
No, we feel that's the board's decision. It will roll over and be considered in the next year's budget. But that's the board's decision and contract negotiations. That's beyond our,
Okay.
it is restricted funds, so,
Right, but the committee hasn't given a recommendation to the board on how to handle that money?
no.
Or even really laid out, because I think one of the other options could be, we've got a little pile of money, let's just cut it up and disperse it between 2,900 people right now.
That's the board's decision.
Okay, right, but, so it's one that we've got coming down the,
I think we might hear some folks suggest that's an issue to be negotiated.
That,
Okay, so,
yeah. And so we felt like I'm sorry.
There's an MOU.
Yeah, we don't want to get involved with contract negotiation between two parties. You have enough people involved in that.
Okay. Nor do I want to do it right now.
Yeah.
I'll just talk to the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions in the financial data?
Well,
Okay, Board Member Golden.
yes, sir, only one, because that was kind of the question that I wanted to ask. I'm
Yes.
looking at the $37.3 million, that was the total for the year.
Yes.
And we came to the end of the half a year with only 13 of that, so that's about 30%. And I know that we're gonna have to give an explanation as to, we asked for it, and then we didn't spend it all. And
These
I,
numbers are distorted because the first half of the year, for example, I'm looking at charter schools.
Yes,
We
sir.
weren't laying that money out as fast. There was a holdback there.
okay,
So in contract negotiations, was underpaid until the contract was satisfied or agreed to, and then that paid. So it's backloaded. We will come much closer to the requirement.
well,
Yes, sir.
let me ask you the question that I want to ask.
Yes, sir.
What I'm concerned about is that we're gonna have, as my colleague says, a pot of money left, but it's also gonna come from certain pieces of the pie.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't want us to get in I know this is not financial data, but I don't want us to get in the position of being told, well, you know, you asked us for all this money, we gave it to you, you didn't spend it. And then when you did decide to spend it, you spent it all on this, and you didn't keep any reserve for that. And I'm just wanting to make sure that the pot is not just a whole pot, but that we are able to determine what we did not spend it on and why.
The chairman can probably answer
Okay.
this better.
I think our superintendent may have some comments regarding this concern.
Right.
Those are very good questions, and I think those are points that need to be brought out. Remember, we didn't start collecting those dollars. I believe most of it started coming in January,
Around November.
but they trickled in. You don't get the biggest wave in November. Now, we as the board had decided to go ahead and start paying up front the referendum to our employees. But the other organizations, charter or so forth, that got their portion, we couldn't give a portion until we collected the revenue. So part of the problem we've had on spending, so you'll see the salaries keep up, even though we will still have a little bit of money left over, because if you didn't fill every position, you will have some left over. The MOU, that will roll into that 51% of the pot for those employees for next year, for MEA. ASME came up with a different decision on theirs.
Okay.
So, which is what you had mentioned, they will divvy up theirs at the end of the year. MEA will roll it over, so therefore that supplement next year could be larger than what this year's supplement was. But part of the issue with the other items that we were going to support, we couldn't start spending on those until we started collecting. So we will have some of those rolling back into those percentages next year that we will be able to spend over the summer and into next year. But the only thing that we front-loaded was just salaries. We could not spend the other until we started collecting. So I think the first year you'll have a lag. You won't have a lag, as much of a lag after the first year because of that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. Board Member Golden, thank you. Chairman Christopher, you had some further comment?
Slide 21 was the original cut that was presented to the community and to the employees and faculty. I think, and Mr. Minor could clarify this better, but I think we feel a moral commitment to those pots of money. There may not be a contractual commitment, but we have represented that and we are tracking it in those individual pots. So we're not commingling between the pots.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Any other financial questions with the reports?
Thank you very, very much on a great report. Okay,
If I may finish,
yeah.
let's see, we'll move on to the last section, the Communications and Transparency Subcommittee. This report is focused on the key findings of the educational quality measures, financial management, and the operating budget. The measurement monitoring is for the key areas of staff recruitment and retainment, increase in student achievement through more instructional time, increase in student achievement through more after-school tutoring, expanded career and technical education, expanded STEM programs, and support for charter schools, which were the key areas of the initiative if the referendum had passed. And so those are the areas that we are looking to build a dashboard so we can monitor and follow the funding as well. So the summary is the current benchmarks are under review to determine the measurable success and to build the dashboard as well in conjunction with the school district. So everything we're doing is not to add additional work, but just to report it in a fashion that models the referendum language. So the educational quality for student achievement, we're focusing on watching the school district rating, which is currently a B, the FSA scores, the percentage of passing scores, 3 to 5, FSA reading, FSA math, SAT scores, district in comparison to state and national, the graduation rates, district in comparison to the state, and dropout rates, which would be the district in comparison to the state of Florida. So these are the areas we've identified, and again, we will report in our annual report after everything closes June 30th, so we anticipate that in September, by the time we get all of the data, and we can put that report together for you again at that time. And that is all. Any other questions?
I just had one more.
Okay, Board Member Golden.
And maybe, is the standard deviation in a particular category broad enough that we could spend all of this money and still be rated a B? Yeah,
Is that brought?
yeah. Is the standard deviation between A schools and B schools large enough that we could expend $37 million and still be a B school?
Well, yes, yes, but I would not be negative toward that. It takes time to impact a school. I mean, our desire is all to be a school, but I can assure you the effort's there by administration and everyone.
I'm glad you said that, because
Yes.
I would not want the community that trusted us with this money to expect that the proof in the pudding is that we went from a B district to an A district, when in fact you could be a B district if you score, now you know I don't know what I'm talking about, so cut me some slack here. If you could be a B district by having a 79,
Yes,
and you could still be a B district by having an 89,
exactly.
and we could increase 10 points.
There's a lot of shades of gray in this, that's right.
Okay,
And it takes time to impact an institution this large.
okay. So then my last question is, what other measurement can we use that would be reflective of the true north, the true progress of the district, other than the artificial one that the state says we've
I will
increased?
tell you, there are people on our committee that know, and you have a very good person in Ms. Gibson measuring these items, and I think she can probably advise the board better than anybody on our committee. I have a lot of confidence in her.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't expect an answer
Yeah,
like
but
now, but
we're on a quest. It's not going to be a quick fix. You're moving a battleship. I'm looking at educators, and you all know that. So this isn't if we remain a B, we failed by any means, because there's a lot of underlying tones that have been improved already that we know and you know. Yes, sir.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
If I may
Board Member
also
Golden.
add to that.
What? Yeah.
If you look at the last slide for the educational quality, I think you'll also be able to see that there are benchmarks that are in place that we can show the difference and improvements in different areas. And that's what we're excited about when we look at a full annual report. There was all of the improvements that the referendum funding had provided for our children, for our teachers, to make this an excellent school district, giving them the resources that they need. And we'll report that annually so that we can assure our community that whether it's a B, high B, low B, we've made a great impact for the children.
Ms. Dill, I read, I guess it was over the weekend, there was a story that there has been a 2% percentage increase in the reading levels in the district. Did I read that, or was that?
Yes, sir, for third grade. She may not have that yet. We just received our raw data Friday. So we had sent a message to the board members so that you had our latest. But I think, to me, the most powerful was, yes, we improved there, but we diminished by 4%
Yes.
those that were retained, or the lowest level. So that kind of goes back to your A-B grade. It takes a while to move the top, but you've got to diminish the bottom, really, to get to grade level reading.
What I would like to see in a final report is not just the analytics financially, but the results in terms of the academic changes that are measurable and that are unique to our county. Not the state, we're a B and we're still a B, because that's a whole nother thing. But when we measure the reading scores, when we see the graduation rates increase, that if we could get that, saying that this is directly attributable to this, I think that would go a long way toward instilling more confidence in the community, in the direction in which we're headed, even if the overall score still remains a B. That's what I.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Golden. Thank you. Okay.
I hear you. Good evening.
Yeah. Next item on our agenda is an overview of transportation. Mr. Harris, what?
I think
Did we miss some? Oh, I'm sorry. That was reports. Okay, Manatee County Bar Association.
We have public comment.
Okay, public comment. Thank you.
Sorry.
We're gonna have public comment first.
We have one person that signed up for public comment. I don't think I need to go through the policy. I think you know it. By heart, you probably could read it to me. Heather Wallace, come on down.
Hi there.
Okay, wasn't trying to ignore you, Heather. Okay.
Thank you, Chair, Superintendent, board members. I want to thank you all again for all the support you gave this year. And even though we're winding down, I'm getting ready for next year. And an issue has come up several times about the shortage of substitutes. And so I know that we're trying to wrap things up, but we need to talk about it because it is a problem. It is addressed in the contract, so that's the good news. It's Article 5. 7, payment for no sub. If a substitute for teaching position that is requested through the system cannot be secured, the sum of $50 per day will be credited to the school's instructional supply account, and the principal will involve the teachers of the school as to how that money should be spent. So I did have that meeting today, and so I'm excited that the principals are, following this, and like I said, it is addressed. The problem is, I don't think it's sufficient. Normally, when you hire a sub, it's around $100 a day. Give or take, depending on their qualifications. So you're reimbursing the school $50. So you're saving a tremendous amount of money by not fixing this problem. Okay, I don't think that's why the problem is recurring. We just don't have enough people to serve as subs. So to be fair, I don't think anybody's doing anything sinister. We don't have the manpower. The solution is right at our school sites. We have many teachers who agree to teach 7 out of 7 classes, give up their planning period, and you compensate them for that. They are paid accordingly. Some of us that have young children or second jobs do not take those positions because we must go pick up our children after school and we cannot work additional hours. That being said, we are oftentimes working 7 out of 7. It's just that one of the periods we're acting as a substitute. So we are being forced to work without compensation. And I happened to listen. I'm, I guess, strange, and I do want to thank the Financial Oversight Committee. I listened to the meeting, and at the tail end, Sarah Brown brought up that we're not just wanting to get the teachers here, but we want to keep them, okay? And we want them to be satisfied in their work. And we lost 4 veterans teachers that I know of last week for various reasons. A couple retire early when they could have extended drop, take other positions. Oftentimes, the first decade in your 20s, you think it's going to get better. You continue working. You're busy getting a master's. You don't have children at home that need you, so you are willing to work 6 or 7 o'clock at night on some nights. But your 30-year-old teachers are leaving because they just cannot work after school. And when you're working them, these cards represent different days that I was delivered a notice at the end of my first period that I needed to go cover a class. Okay, I threw them away at the beginning of the year. Okay, so this is 5 hours right here. Okay, so I, at the end of first period, get a notice from a student aide. I need to go report to the other end of the school. I have no lesson. No, it's a security issue. They're unattended children.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mullis. Okay. Next on our agenda is a report from the Manatee County Bar Association, and I think the superintendent's going to be addressing this. Okay.
Yes, I invited Ms. Dorman to come and speak. She's of Baker, Paul, and Dorman. She came and spoke to me last year, her office wanted to partner with one of our schools, and they've been so gracious to be working with Sug Middle all year with their avid students, starting with 6th grade. They've done a variety of projects, and they're also going to increase some of their involvement with our high school students next year. So I thought it would be great for the board to know just how the community is supporting our students. So thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Ms. Saunders, and thank you, members of the board. I happen to know quite a few of you, and it's an honor to be here. I'm Lori Dorman. I'm a past president of the Manatee County Bar Association, and I'm here with Tracy Pratt and Brenna Willem of Embracing Our Differences, and we're here to tell you what we did at SUG this year. I feel like I'm writing my little end of school year book report. This is what we did over the summer, except this is what we did during the school year. So last summer, the Manatee County Bar Association and its Diversity and Inclusion Committee came to the school district and said, we have people who want to know what you need because we want to be involved. And we were very fortunate enough to get partnered with Sug Middle School and the AVID program. As you all probably know, this was the first year that Sug has reintroduced the AVID program. And so we worked with 2 classes of 6th graders once a month starting in August and going all the way through the year to mentor them, to teach them, and to be a part of their school day. Principal Ann McDonald was very welcoming to us. I think the fact that we came with little gifts helped out. We started out with a teacher wish list items, and so we gave them a math care package that included things like calculators and compasses and protractors and pencils and highlighters and glue sticks and the other things that they needed. Then we followed that up with classroom lecturers. These are volunteer attorneys and judges who came in once a month to talk to the kids about things like, let's see. Oops, I'm not good at this. There we go. To talk to the kids about things like the U.S. Constitution, democracy, and the right to vote. Every child got a copy of the U.S. Constitution if they were in class in October. We talked about the Fifth Amendment, including the right against self-incrimination and the right to an attorney. You know, we are lawyers, we kind of have to promote ourselves. We talked about goal setting. We talked about identifying biases. We talked about the First Amendment and why college is what these kids want to do. I want to just recognize the people who came so that you all know. Alex St. Paul, the Manatee County Bar President. We had judges Diana Moreland, Judge Renee Inman, and Judge Scott Brownell. We had Public Defender Terry Drake, attorneys Paul Grundall, Aaron Crittenden, Tracy Pratt, who's here today, Sean Powers, Jim Delgado, Christine Alamano, Greg Hagopian, our executive director, Grace Ann Frederico, and me. And we were so honored to work with Bonnie Sourbeer. She's just done an amazing job with these AVID kids. They were eager to learn, and they participated hands-on. Every single one of those kids can tell you all 3 branches of government. They can tell you what they do, and they can tell you how they do it. These kids understand how bills are supposed to be passed. I know that we have a Congress that has some issues with that. But they understand what the Supreme Court does. They understand what the executive branch does. They also understand what bias and intolerance and prejudice mean. We've gone activities with them so that they can see kind of actually how these things work and what to do to make them stop. We talked to them about Florida's college and university system and why they want to go to college. I have a few more slides here that show some of our judges and teachers. And our last program was college. It's awesome. And we talked to the kids about the wonderful resources that are here, the university system in the state of Florida, the state college system, and how these kids can even go to one of our military academies. We had graduates from SCF, we had graduates from Eckerd College, we had graduates from, Judge Moreland went to the Merchant Marine Academy, and I went to UCLA, and so they got to hear about that too. But these kids were so excited and so engaged, and they asked questions, and they wanted to learn, and we were so excited to be partnered with them. We're coming back next year. We have big new things planned for SUG. But the reason I'm here today is because we want to do something more. We don't want to just touch 40 kids. We want to hit the whole school district. We think we can make a difference, and we have some wonderful partners to help us do that. So this year, I wish I was better with this PowerPoint thing. I can make them, I just can't use them. So this year, what we would like to do is to present the program Letters from Ann and Martin to all of the Manatee County high schools. This would be a program that would be presented to the 10th grade. And it would be a way for kids to learn something that, even though it happened decades ago, has an impact on them today. We're bombarded every day about unimaginable things that happen in our schools, in our houses of worship, in public spaces. There are terrible people who post things online that are full of hate. They want to foster prejudice and intolerance and violence. We know that words matter, and we can't arm ourselves out of hatred. But there are things that we can do to make a difference. There are things that we can do to teach our kids how to understand our differences, how to find common ground, and how to find understanding. The really wonderful thing about Manatee County is that we have so many partners in our community who want to do things to make this a better place to live. It's already a wonderful place. I say that as the mother of 2 Manatee County high school graduates. I know that this is an amazing place to go to school. But through embracing our differences, and I'm going to ask Brenna if she can come up. Brenna Willem is here from Embracing Our Differences. Thanks to her, the Manatee County Bar Association, and the Manatee Community Foundation, we are here to bring this program at no cost to Manatee County. We and our partners are going to underwrite the whole thing. Brenna is here to talk about how that program went last year at Sarasota County so that you all can understand the mechanics of the program and why it is that through the generosity of the Manatee Community Foundation, through the donors to Embracing Our Differences and our other community partners, why this program is so important and what a great thing it would be to bring it to Manatee County. So Brenna, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so, oh, I'm sorry, sir.
That's all right. Embracing Our Differences.
Embracing Our Differences, yes.
Is this the program that Carol and Carol Buchanan
Yes,
started in
Yes.
Sarasota County using the
Yes.
arts.
yes. We have the exhibit on the Bayfront,
Yes,
and that we have up for a few months, and we bus in kids from both counties for free. This
Thank
year
you.
You guys had a wonderful representation from Manatee County students at the exhibit. So, first and foremost, thank you on behalf of our organization, Embracing Our Differences. Thank you to the entire Manatee County School Board and to Superintendent Saunders and to the Manatee County Bar Association for providing this opportunity for us to bring this wonderful initiative to Manatee County students. Last year, we were proud to partner with the Anne Frank Center for Mutual Respect, as well as Jewish Federation of Sarasota Manatee County and the Bar Association to bring this wonderful program to Sarasota County students. Over the course of 2 days, we were able to provide 5 performances impacting around 4,500 students, the opportunity to come and experience a 45-minute play with actors from New York, and they came down and they were able to do a 45-minute presentation where it's excerpts from Anne Frank's diary as well as excerpts from Martin Luther King's letters from Birmingham jail. And then after the 45-minute performance, then there was a 20 to 25-minute Q&A moderated by Chief Judge Charles Williams of the 12th Sarasota 12th Judicial Circuit. So what is really incredible, we did a survey after the performances as well from the educators. What was really wonderful is that for so many of our for anyone, they don't realize that Anne Frank and Martin Luther King were born the same year. And even though they lived on continents 5,000 miles apart and they suffered similar fates in different decades, they shared the parallel experiences living in the shadow of hatred and prejudice. So often these extra initiatives that we're able to offer for free to the students and educators, it is a way to amplify those curricular experiences that they're already being able to be exposed to. And with this particular production, it really helped resonate with our students, the testament of how one voice can carry on the voice for so many that are silent. So I think when it comes to our organization and what we stand for, and about teaching about respect and kindness and how we have to advocate for being the upstander and not the bystander, it aligned perfectly with us, and we are grateful for the partnerships that we have within the community to offer opportunities for free to your students. So if you have any questions, I'm here to help, but we are very excited to be able to offer this to Manatee County.
Thank you.
So we're here and we want to help. So we have great things that I think we can do for the school. I think Superintendent Saunders can speak to the reaction at SUG from the teachers and from the principal, but I can tell you that I would see these kids once a month, and I would walk in and I would get a, "Hi, Mrs. Dorman," and they were so excited to have people come and to talk to them about real world things, and to bring history and government and civics education to the 7th grade. You know, I know that the school year is so tight with all the things that the kids have to do and they have to learn in order for us to test to show that they're learning the things they need to learn. And to have the opportunity to teach them something that's a little bit different in a little bit different way, really, I saw firsthand how much of a difference that made. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Okay, let's say Board Member Kennedy, then Board Member Golden. Okay.
Thank you. I'm just curious, what kind of feedback did you hear? What kind of questions did you hear from the students? What were they most interested in your once a month with them?
Oh, in our once a month?
Yeah, sorry, from the Bar Association.
So the kids had lots of questions. So every month we had a different topic. So it varied on what the topic was. So the very first time we went in, I was surprised, honestly, that the kids had so little college knowledge. And we talked about, what are universities? And it was almost a blank. It really was almost a blank. So that first time, we talked about schools around the country, and then we focused on what can you do only if you have a degree? What kinds of things do you have to have a degree to do? And so all the kids got teacher, and then it kind of stopped. And so that first time, their questions were really, well, if I have a college degree, what does that mean to me? At the very end of the year, so our first year was, what's college? Our first lecture was what's college. Our very last lecture was, how do I get there? So all of the people who spoke, interestingly enough, either put themselves through college or got college scholarships. Nobody had mommy and daddy writing checks to USC to get us onto a crew team to go. So, and the kids wanted to know, what do we have to do to get to college? So I think this was the first time for a lot of these 7th graders to ever hear the words bright futures. We talked about the fact that you didn't have to have money to go to school. We talked about things that they needed to do now in order to make that happen. During our goal setting, we had a great presentation with 2 of our male attorneys who came and talked to the kids about goal setting. And they talked about, what do you do when you get knocked down? What do you do when you fail a test? What do you do? How do you pick yourself up? And so the kids had lots of questions, about how do you turn a negative experience into a positive experience. I think when Tracy was here, the kids were very, very interested in invoking the right to remain silent. And they had many questions. They had many questions. And the questions that they were asking were so smart. And it's sometimes people who do nothing wrong get into trouble because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so they, bless her heart, Tracy and Christine Alamano, who did that lecture, got peppered with the most interesting fact patterns that you could possibly imagine.
Well, I mean, it's a skill that young people need, how to interact, how to know your rights, and how to interact with law enforcement. So and a lot of these kids are
well, and if you happen to be black or brown, it's
much more likely to come in contact.
Yeah. So those were questions that were really important to them. So they also we had 2 mock trials where the kids took turns being prosecutors, defendants, the jury. Does that mean I need to stop? And so they had lots of questions for our judges. So like I said, we had 3 judges who were there that talked to them, and they also talked to them about kind of decorum, about how you act and how that affects how people react to you. And the kids were amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is terrific. Thank everybody in the Bar Association.
Reverend Hope.
Okay, I promised, Board Member Golden, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. My question to the superintendent is, how do we express not only our interest and our support, but whatever they need to, 2 of the most pernicious evils in our society, anti-Semitism and racism. And so I'm glad that the children are not only learning how to invoke their right to remain silent, but I'm glad that future police and law enforcement officers are being exposed at an earlier age to the kinds of differences that they can embrace instead of feeling threatened by. We've had just too many children who've run into police, law enforcement people who didn't have this course, didn't have this opportunity. So I would just like to know as soon as we can, because my answer is yes, whenever and wherever that is and however that manifests itself, no exceptions. And I'd like to be a part of, as a matter of fact, I'm going to write my check to rejoin the Manatee County Bar.
Good to know. Good to know.
I'm going to do that to be a part of that side of the table. All right, and I thank you very much.
So if I may for one quick second. So what we're trying to do is a program that's going to reach 3 or 4 counties at the same time. Sarasota County, Manatee County, Pinellas County, and Hillsborough County. So we're trying to reach as many kids as we can, and this is part of the Florida Bar's initiative to help combat racism, and prejudice.
So you're in the 10th, 11th, and 12th Judicial Circuit,
So yeah,
all three judicial circuits.
we're covering we're doing our best to cover a lot of ground. Embracing our differences is such a humongous driving force. What I wanted to say is that we are trying to bring this program in September to kind of start the year, to start the conversation. One of the things, again, that I was a little bit surprised about when I went into 7th grade was, how little 20th century history the kids have. They know about 9/11, but they don't know about World War II, and they don't know very much about the reasons for that war and how it impacted our country. They knew who Martin Luther King was as a holiday. They didn't know what he did. And so we were able to have our 6th graders were able to join with Sarasota to come see it. But we really think that in order to make this impactful and to have the biggest bang for the time that we have, to hit the 10th graders who are going to be doing world history and who are going to be able to much better relate to this program.
Now, are you just responsible for Manatee, or is Manatee heading up Hillsborough and Pinellas and Sarasota? Are there other lawyers in those counties before those school boards doing this?
So I wish Charlie Ann Seibert was here. She is on the Florida Bar Diversity and Inclusion Committee for the entire state of Florida, and this is a project that the entire Florida Bar is behind. And so I'm only working on Manatee County. Brenna and her partner Sarah Wertheimer at Embracing Our Differences, they're working on Manatee and Sarasota counties. I don't believe you all are doing north.
We're in talks of certain things, but for this year, our primary focus is Manatee County. It's been offered to Sarasota. We'd like to make sure that we're giving the attention that Manatee, and then we'll continue to be at the table to see how best we can support any efforts that are needed.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
so much. Thank you.
These are programs where the kids learn a lot, and those giving the programs, learn a lot from the kids. I can tell you, I was involved with a program in college, one of my summer jobs, and I put to bed and got up 5 kids in the morning, took them to classes, took them to all the meals, and took them to entertainment. The 3rd day there, I asked one of my children, who was from Bedford-Stuyvesant, a section of New York City, which is not exactly a suburb. I said, Joe, why are you always wearing gloves? And he says, so I don't leave prints. So I learned that. And so he always wore gloves. Okay. And he's doing pretty well now with instincts like that. I don't know if he learned it from policemen or what, but he learned it from the street, I think. Okay, the next item is ERP improvements, and Scott Hansen is here.
How about transportation overview?
Transportation.
Or no, transportation with Jason. And you have an assistant there with you, looks familiar too. Okay.
Yes, I'm sure everyone's been hugged and kissed by Lee.
I thought I was the only one. Okay.
All right, good afternoon. Board members, board chair, superintendent, Mr. Wagner. I come to you today. We have identified some issues in transportation and some possible solutions with the collaboration between the Office of Student Demographics, Projections, and Assignment. These efficiencies that we've identified, we need your help with and ask your permission to make the necessary changes. That way those resources can be allocated to the students that we are transporting and find some efficiencies to be better on time. So we have identified 7 pockets that by making a few adjustments to these pockets, we will find efficiencies in transportation that we can utilize and use those resources elsewhere. The first are 3 pockets in Palmetto. The 3 are Miller, Stewart, and Palmasola. Now, as you can see on the first slide of the map, these students are in the Palmetto area around the 4th Avenue area. Right now, currently, the students that are at Miller, Stewart, and Palmasola travel over the Green Bridge to and from school. They're on the bus for quite a while. Right now, we have Palmasola students. There's 53 of those students in the Palmasola zone, and that utilizes 1 bus. In the Stewart zone, there are 27 students that also utilizes 1 bus. And in the Miller zone, there are 32 students that utilize 1 bus. Now, our recommendation for rezoning would be to have the students attend Palmetto Elementary, which is 1.2 miles from their actual living residence. This is a closer snapshot of the area. Right now, the buses will go over the Green Bridge and deliver and then carry on to the Buffalo Creek to service the middle school. The next 2 pockets are in the Daughtry area. They are for Braden River Elementary School and Terra Elementary School. In the Braden River area, that is less than a mile from, the zone is less than a mile from Daughtry. We utilize 1 bus to transport 44 students. And for the Terra, there are 76 students that we utilize 2 buses. Now, our recommendation would be to rezone that area to the Daughtry School in order to use those resources for our regular ed students.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Board Member Kennedy?
Jason, I just want to point out, if I'm reading the map right, and I think that I am, is that the Terra block that's light blue and the Braden River block that's orange, dark orange,
Correct.
is what looks like to be about 200 yards away from Daughtry Elementary, the school over in this, okay.
Less than a mile.
Less than a quarter of a mile, I'd imagine.
This could have the biggest impact is our King Middle School. Currently, there is a cluster of students that are near State Road 70 and Lockwood Ridge. They are on the bus for 60 minutes to travel from that area all the way to King Middle School. And right now, we utilize 1 bus, and there's 13 students just at the Sable Key subdivision. Our recommendation going forward would be to rezone those students to Braden River Middle School.
Mr. Chair, quick question.
Board Member Kennedy?
Jason, I just want to make sure I'm seeing this right. So this whole swath that is this light orange, they're all going to King?
Yes.
Not just that small piece, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vice Chair Messenger?
Which color represents Braden Rivers?
The bluish purple?
Blue? Is blue? Okay, just making sure.
Another area, pocket that we can obtain efficiency would be for the Faulkner Farms area. Currently, they travel close to 20 miles to McNeil. It would make better transportation sense to rezone those students to Mayaca, which is, you're going to shave off close to 5 miles and some time there as well.
Still a pretty good hike, but less of a hike.
Correct. So we move on to these are the areas in which the students are attending and that are recommendations.
Harris,
Okay, Board Member Golden?
before we go further, the recommendations that you are making have been vetted in terms of their acceptability, in terms of race-neutral boundaries that have to be kept in Manatee County?
Those we would discuss with Mr. Don's area as well, to make sure, to research what those requirements are.
Okay, so at this point, what you're presenting to us are your recommendations
Yes.
that have not been vetted by any of the legal minds that would have to defend us if we violated some federal laws.
That is correct, and that would be part of what we're asking right now, is to move forward with looking and begin the vetting process. These are just transportation recommendations as far as trying to find efficiencies to overcome our bus driver shortage and some of the other challenges. This would helps us offset those.
Okay, so at this point, we could literally solve one problem, wind up with another, as far as you know.
That very well could be, but that's not my expertise, and I would ask Don to, I guess, relate a little bit more on that.
Okay. All right, I'll wait.
We're talking about the 2021 year, isn't that correct?
That is
Okay,
correct.
we're not talking about next year, but this is a proposal to look at, for efficiency in terms of drivers and buses, and also the time spent by students on a bus. Trying to significantly reduce the amount of time that a student is on the bus, and also reduce the amount of time for parents to travel and be involved in a school, to be closer to the school.
Correct.
And Board Member Golden's brought up, an issue of, is this, consistent with our civil rights, obligation? Is it consistent with input, from, parents at these schools? And that's maybe the next step if we think this has merit to it and going forward.
Yes, these are just, we looked at it from a transportation perspective and some of our routes, and an opportunity for us to find some efficiencies so the students aren't on the bus for such a long time, especially the King students.
Mr. Chair, the third,
Mr. Golden.
yeah, I'm sorry. The third part of that stool is not just the civil rights and not just the community input, but also with respect to the overcrowding that we have acknowledged that exists in certain areas for certain reasons. So it just seems to me that we're going to have to try to solve. We could solve your problem, but then we could create more problems, and that's all I'm hoping that we can avoid.
That's a very valid
That would-
point.
that would be
Board
the
Member
next
Golden.
step.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Board Member Hopes.
Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure I've got a full understanding. I mean, really what we're doing here is we are looking at how to address these pockets that have been around for decades, to put these children in the school closest to where they live, minimize the time they're spending on buses, and allow for the students and the families to be more engaged with their community school. And my question for the superintendent is, are we under any kind of order that would prevent us from placing children in the school closest to them?
We're not currently in an order, however, we do look at the makeup of the school population.
But that's the board's discretion. We're not going to encroach on any federal violations or Department of Education violations.
That is correct. If we were to make any zoning changes, we will have to follow the same process we do for any change or school boundary,
Right.
which involves all the parents, committees of the schools being impacted if they're leaving or receiving. And we go over the demographics to see if it's going to skew any extreme. I think a lot of these boundaries were set a long time ago. Our demographics have changed specifically over the last 10 years. So looking at some of these, I don't know that it will have one, but all those things would be taken into consideration and presented to the board before any action would be taken, as well as the parents would have a say.
Let me be clear. The one thing that I'm hoping will rise, because I'm pretty sure that most of us are pretty adept at avoiding legal entanglements, but it's just really sad that we have to go through blood sport to try to help children when adults come in and accuse us of not being sensitive or not being culturally competent, and some other phrases that I've heard. So I'd rather do it on this end now than make a spectacle of that process when we do get to it and we don't have any choice, that we have to really make some decisions if we're going to save money or save these children from added troubles to just try to get an education. So that's what I'm concerned. But I'm not so much concerned. I know Attorney Dye is going to keep us out of federal court. I'm not even worried about that. But it's the court of public opinion and the community, the parents, and particularly the minority communities that I am sensitized to. Maybe that's because I'm a minority myself, being a Methodist preacher and all.
Okay. Thank you, Board Member Golden. I think, it's good discussion bringing up those points.
Yeah.
And the idea that, several decades ago, transportation challenges are a lot different than they are today. The time to, for a student to be bused has increased significantly. Same thing with parents. It's, and those are considerations and an indication or one of the reasons for reevaluation is appropriate at this time. So, okay.
Here's some data that we tabulated. Right now, the Palmasola Elementary, from distance from their current residence to Palmasola is 6.8. There's 53 students. They utilize one bus. The average arrival time in the mornings is 7:52 a.m. The average PM arrival is 3:06. The preferred school would be Palmetto, and the distance to Palmetto Elementary from their residence is 1.2. Now, while that doesn't look all that bad as far as arriving in the PM, one of the things that you don't see in the data is that this bus does not have a high school. So we're limited by transporting these students from Miller, Palmasola, and Stewart over the Green Bridge. We can't assign a high school to their tier. They have to start with the elementary and then to the middle school. This would go for all of these elementary and middle schools as well. Right now, those students for Palmasola are on the bus for 20 minutes. Miller students are on the bus for 30 minutes. Stewart, 50 minutes. Braden River Elementary, they're on the bus for 40 minutes. Both Terra buses those students are on the bus in the afternoon for 30 minutes. King is on the bus for 60 minutes, and Faulkner Farms was on the bus for 25 minutes. By making the possible rezoning changes, all but 2 of the zones, King and Faulkner Farms, would be in walking distance of the school. Also wanted to take a snapshot of our actual GPS software. This is for bus 1043. They depart on the left-hand column. You can see the different times. As you can see, they arrive at Stewart at 3:08. They leave at 3:26. They arrive at Palmasola at 3:26. They depart, I'm sorry, they arrive at Palmasola at 3:30, depart at 3:39, and then make the stop at 3:59. So the students that were picked up at 3:08 are on the bus until 3:59. And this is on a good day. The other thing to note is the arrival time at Buffalo Creek, the next tier. They're arriving already at 8 minutes late. They depart Buffalo Creek at 4:23, and they make their last stop at 4:55. One of the things the board chair requested was data on our bus driver shortage and what our actual need. At the beginning of the school year, our routes were optimized at 185 bus drivers needed. Right now, we have compressed those routes down to 150. So we are short 35 drivers. This is a
Still?
snapshot. Excuse me?
Still,
Oh, yes.
you initially, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Mr. Golden.
You started out needing 185.
That is the need for buses to be on time, to have enough staff.
And you were able to finagle it to where you got down to 150, and you still need how many?
35.
So literally, we're operating even optimally with minus 70 bus drivers. But if you needed 185, that was
Down
to do
150,
the job
so that's
optimally.
one-
Am I
yes.
right?
So that's not including any kind of what we call a standby or extra board. Usually you would need 10% of that 185, so that's gonna be additional 15 drivers to cover call-offs and absenteeism, workers' comp.
Okay, I want to say this in one sentence and see if it makes sense. In order to adequately provide for the transportation needs for the Manatee County school system, we need 200 drivers. We do not have the 15% cover over the 185 that we projected we would need, nor do we have the 35 over 150 that puts us literally at providing minimal service, and we don't have 35 of those.
Yes, sir. Our total bus driver count would be 200.
And so at this point, we're now down to 130 or 20, whatever the math is. So we're operating a bus system with about 65% of the people that we need.
Yes.
Okay.
We also wanted to show you a snapshot of the March data. We track things, and every day we operate at 10% of the workforce that we have hired that have not shown up for work. And that could be for various reasons, like call-offs, scheduled off, and worker comp claims, and other open routes. And yeah, I've also inputted data for our on-time performance in the afternoon as well. Just another snapshot that we wanted to provide the board. In January, we conducted a job fair. We made 8 full-time drivers offers. Out of those 8, we had 1 that failed the physical. We had 2 no-show for the drug test. We had 1 reject our offer, said we pay too less. 1, there was a fingerprint issue regarding their background. 1 failed the CDL test, and 2 successfully passed. So that's a 25% success rate, and we spent over 80 district hours in managing and bringing those 2 drivers on board.
Mr. Chair?
Board Member Goldman.
So if we were to extrapolate this 25%, utilizing the 70 that you say we need, we'd have to have a job fair that would have 280 applicants. Yeah, you said we need 70, you got a 25% success rate. 25%.
I'd be happy with just one.
No, I understand, but the reality is that out of the
Reality is
8,
that, yes.
you got 2. So out of 280, you'd get 70.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Board Member Kennedy.
A question and a comment. Jason, if I remember from the last time we talked about this in our shade session,
No.
anyway, last time we talked about this, I think you said the number was 15. If we made the school border changes or attendance zones changes, it would save us about 15, was it 15 buses? Do I have that number close?
That was a combination of many different areas that we found that would be, that could bring efficiencies. We've already started down a path of, we sent the hardship letters out, making parents aware that next school year that they do not qualify for transportation. It was that on top of some other scenarios that would have given us that many buses in savings.
Okay, so the combination of everything was 15 buses?
Correct.
Okay.
This would be, we could utilize those resources, we could have efficiencies where these buses would be able to operate high schools because they're operating in their zone, their proper zone,
Okay.
instead of going continuously over the Green Bridge and back.
All right, so, and that has nothing to do with pay or benefits or student safety, so I think that's safe to talk about no matter what. Also, Jason, I want to thank you. I understand that you are, have taken a position. I thought this was public knowledge, no?
On the plan.
I'll stop talking now. Well, that was awkward. Anyway, good luck to you, Jason.
I think one of the reasons you pointed this out about the need, for bus drivers, the need for efficiency and how our buses run, is that despite a lot of effort, it's on your part and others, it's hard to get the necessary bus drivers, to fulfill the routes we'd like to have presently. So it's time to seriously think about, changing our routes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, how are we doing? The next is Scott Hansen and ERP improvements and roadmap.
It was good, it was quick.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Good afternoon, Board Chair.
so it's not really true what the gossip is. You weren't in your office in the corner, curled up. That's
I
not.
don't believe so.
That wasn't you, it was somebody.
Not me.
Okay, all right, then we can go ahead.
Good afternoon, Board Chair, Superintendent, Board members, Mr. Wagner, Council. Today, we wanted to give an update on the ERP improvements, accomplishments, and I'd just like to set, going back to September when there was obviously a transition with our maintenance and support provider. We obviously know the challenges that have been well documented with ERP, but we wanted to take an opportunity to really share some significant accomplishments over the course of the last 10 months, past 10 months, and as we approach year one. Now, a couple of things to note. Anytime we embark on a challenge as great as the ERP, there are many opportunities to do things for the first time, and we're still doing things for the first time with our ERP. And I think that's important both from our staff in HR and finance and all the auxiliary departments, as well as IT. So what we wanted to do today is simply go through, hit a few highlights of some of the improvements that have been made, and certainly answer questions. Also talk about the roadmap between now and January 1 of 2020 and some of the things that are going to come up as we move through this process. These items that you see here for HCM, as we refer to it, these are items that as we made that transition and go live, there were some challenges, some things that weren't exactly put in place. So again, I'm not going to read each one of these, but a few of these items just to touch on. Obviously, employee self-service, making that available to our staff members beyond the school day or beyond the instructional day is critically important. That certainly is a win. Open enrollment, the W-2 process, going back, obviously, as you reached that point in December, there were some challenges there, but the team, there was an awful lot of effort, and obviously, from my standpoint, I'm trying to catch up on these, but there were some significant accomplishments made as it relates to W-2. Obviously, the staff survey period, getting that submitted and embarking on that challenge as well is another big accomplishment. Degree supplements, the Medicaid roster, another opportunity for the school district where we are in a good place, and as we embark on these the second time in many of these processes. Again, I won't touch COBRA and Florida Blue, a couple of these files. Again, as we went live, there were some challenges there, and both our maintenance provider and our staff worked very diligently, and we're now successfully transferring those files each, whether there are files that we transfer daily, weekly, or monthly. Those things are obviously happening very successfully today. Moving on into financials, again, some areas 1099, some of these are items that you've seen over the past few months that have been some challenges, and we're successfully doing these processes daily, weekly, and monthly. Subledgers, these again have been developed, are available in the system. The payroll reclass, that program is being tested, and I believe possibly has been just recently moved in. Another big item that was not available to us when we went live back on July 1, that is now being brought into production. And then obviously restricting transfers of the program and commitment control budgets is in the testing environment. Our team is looking at that and fixing to give that the thumbs up to our maintenance provider. Campus solutions, a number of challenges there, and our maintenance provider has worked very diligently hard with the MTC staff. Really the outstanding item, spoke with Bob Burwell this morning. Counterpoint is the one outstanding item that we're working through as it relates to the integration of the student financials. Again, going back to the beginning, new course fee not calculating, that has been resolved as well. Credit card processing, Bob said they're down to about 1 per month. So again, working through those issues, there are successes. I think if you go back a number of months, there were a number of credit card failures, but down to about 1 per month. Transcript failures, this is an interesting item. Obviously, migrations occur. There's some transcript failures that occur. The team has a process in place at MTC to handle those, but some of those are data issues, not relative to the campus solution product. So again, the staff at MTC working through those from a manual perspective and producing that transcript when they do need to be produced. But again, cleaning up that data is an ongoing process. I would like to touch on this, the financial aid 2019, that's ongoing. There are some challenges there. There's no question. Not going to step here and say that's necessarily an accomplishment at this point in time. Again, there's a good plan in place. The team is working very diligently between now and through the summer months. But again, there is a plan in place. It's not where we want it to be as they approach that June timeframe, but there is a plan in place.
Okay, Board Member Golden?
When you say campus solutions, you're talking about MTC?
MTC, correct. That is the solution they use. One of the challenges is, and Mr. Wagner, I think being a subject matter expert, we use clock hours. And that's a big challenge for any provider to use clock hours instead of credit hours.
Correct.
And it's very difficult to find. It works for our school district. It's the right thing for our school district. We're having to make some modifications and work with the maintenance provider to do that. But again, for financial aid, given the solution and as far as we have come since the time that our maintenance provider has kind of taken a hold of this and made some progress. Significant progress has been made in this area. We'll continue to work through, and Bob's staff will as well.
I'm sorry, I
Sure.
thought that the ERP ramp up, fix up, I thought that the MTC was a separate.
It is, but we want to certainly share, because that's significantly impacts our school district. I mean, it's a separate solution as it relates to how MTC operates, but again, want to make sure that that we're also sharing on those accomplishments as it relates to MTC.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Other accomplishments, I'd like to take an opportunity to brag on our staff, because there have been some significant accomplishments over the last couple of months that our team, and one I'd like to point out to Mantra, Naren, and Joanna, one of our BAs. Actually, when I came on board, we had previously had a contract with a third party to provide support for Taleo. That contract's roughly $30,000 for support every 6 months. We were able to put some resources together, realign some resources in technology, and they have been fully supporting that product and making some significant changes and very positive changes. So again, bringing the district a savings of roughly $30,000 over a 6-month period, but ideally, if you're looking at over the last year, it would be at $60,000. And what that some of you may be aware of, over the last 4 years, we've had a number of postings on our website that were expired, and we have not been able to successfully remove those. But both Mantra and Joanna, putting their resources together, were able to remove those old postings. So again, another big success story there. And then TripSpark, which our transportation department uses, another big accomplishment with a number of resources in our data center team. They were able to resolve that working with the vendor, a nightly file upload that was basically unsuccessfully every week transmitting between TripSpark and our data center, and that file has also been resolved. Again, a number of folks on our team successfully resolving a number of these issues. So just wanted to point that out. As we look at the roadmap, we are as the superintendent just a few weeks ago mentioned, we are embarking on a needs assessment. We're processing that purchase order through the system. We'll do a requirements gathering for that, put that out for RFP posting, and then move forward with that. Internal accounts, school activity accounting, superintendent again mentioned that just a few weeks ago. There's an item, I think, before you tonight, school funds online, as we look to reduce our footprint in an area where we hosted our bookkeepers 2 weeks ago and received very positive comments from our bookkeepers to make that transition. So that item is actually before you tonight. Looking at June and July, we're going to post and evaluate those RFP responses and then make some decisions as it relates to those findings. Obviously, we don't know what those findings are going to be until we put that document out there. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that. September 2019, our administration and support renewal is up. We have a couple of options, and we're obviously, the team is currently looking at those options right now as we look at our contractual obligations and look to renew that agreement. Then the big item, HR, our entire transition team, we're making the move, changing from Taleo to PeopleSoft Recruiting. So our team is meeting every other week. Our maintenance provider is providing us a sandbox, and we have some tentative dates that we're asking for the cabinet and the superintendent to approve at our next meeting as it relates to go live with PeopleSoft Recruiting. And that's something I know has been discussed for the last few months. So that process is in place and moving forward in a very positive direction. With that, I'd like to open it up for questions.
Board Member Golden?
I think you said earlier in your presentation that you were still discovering a lot of things that we were having to deal with for the first time.
For the first time, absolutely.
All right, when we get to the September administration and support renewal, will we be able to look at those things to determine what would be the best course of action going forward? Or do you anticipate that there will still be some first things that will not have been resolved?
Oh, great question. I think a couple of things. I hope that what we garner out of the needs assessment will certainly, and that hopefully will conclude prior to that renewal period. We certainly have to look at some things as far, I think timing is everything. When you look at the renewal period, we're going to have to consider what those needs, what the results from the needs assessment come back at, because right now we don't know what we don't know. But certainly we'll consider that at that time. But yeah, as I mentioned before, our staff, we're doing a lot of things for the first time, and I think anytime you look at a transition of an ERP, you have to realize that we're doing things for the first time. As we look to close out the books for the end of the year, there's still a number of processes that our staff using this system, we quite frankly haven't completed them for the first time.
You're doing this how often?
The update, I believe we do the update, is it every quarter or is it as needed?
At least once a quarter, but as soon as we have other significant milestones, it could be sooner than that.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because I noticed that you said in here that we're getting ready to do the needs assessment in May or June. Is that what it said? Yeah, May or June, that we're going to try to select someone to do that. Is that right?
Correct. What we're doing is taking a look. One of the findings from 1819, a tentative audit finding, I think, and part of our management response was to look at, as it relates to the ERP, is to actually take a look at a consultant or a subject matter expert to help define those requirements. So we're doing that. We've selected a vendor that will come in and help us with those requirements. They will not be the vendor that will actually carry out the assessment. They're going to assist and guide us. And again, that was one of those findings from the 1890, or a tentative finding from 1819 that was included in our management response. So we're following that process.
Thank you so very, very much for calming everybody down. I don't feel a sense of urgency and immediacy and emergency that I've been feeling literally since I got here in November. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a complete team effort. There's no question about it. I'm still onboarding and learning myself.
Not in the corner.
But we have a great team.
Not in the corner curled up or anything.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Board Member Golden. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. The next item is discussion of structure for workshops and board meetings. And I think Mr. Hope's wanted this on the agenda. Is that correct?
I don't know, but I'll take.
Well, if it's not, it had
I'll be
down.
accountable for it.
Okay, we had down here chair.
Start.
Okay, do you have some thoughts you want to share about workshops and board meetings?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
As you recall, this board went through some pretty painful times while I was chair, and we got to better understand expectations of the five of us. Now we have a new board member, and we came up with, I'll refer to it as sort of an operating rhythm for meetings, where, and this was one of the issues that was really one that was touchy between you and I, and the result was that we agreed to 5 uninterrupted minutes for each member to debate or opine on an issue before we went back around, the 5 of us, to then have a second 5-minute period. And if you will also recall, I made a motion and you sided with me that, given the shortage of personnel, that we would be best serving the administration to have a regularly scheduled 1 meeting a month. And where we have digressed is in all fairness, you as chair are not following the guidelines that we all agreed to better collaborate in board meetings. I don't know that you've spent the time to learn the technology that we have so that you know when someone wants to speak. But we've gotten to a point, in my opinion, where the meetings, if someone were to score the amount of time talking, the chair is supposed to govern the meeting, not be the meeting. And we have technology so that you know, and it's hard. I've been in, Mr. Kenny and I have both been in that seat, and it's hard to know when people are queued up to speaking, but there is technology to follow. And the past few meetings, I don't know if I'm alone on this, but you're having trouble even following the printed agenda, whether it's the Pledge of Allegiance or when there's public comment. And what's happening is the staff and the superintendent's administration are here till 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it's squandering their time. We're taxing them. And, at the very least, we need to have an organized, structured meeting. You as chair need to govern and oversee the meeting. And quite frankly, the chair should be one of the last ones to make comments. And I just believe we need to come back around to the things that we agreed to, including the courtesy of putting items on the agenda when they're requested by your fellow board members. If you wait, as you have done, for us to amend the agenda on the board meeting night, we haven't served the public. If it's published on the agenda when a board member requests it, and it's published on the website, those individuals that may want to speak to that issue know it's coming up. If you don't put items on the agenda and we amend the agenda on the board meeting night, the public is not aware that the item's coming up and they won't be here to speak. And I just, we had made a lot of gains, and I feel, Mr. Chairman, that we've digressed in the past few months, and I find it painful, and I know the superintendent's administration finds it painful. They have to come back to work the next morning. And so with that, I'll defer to my fellow board members, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hopes.
Doctor.
Board Member Hopes.
Mr. Chair.
Board Member Golden.
As you may recall, one of my first acts as a board member was to nominate you to serve as chair. And while I was not privy to much of what I have heard Dr. Hope's address, I have been privy to many conversations about the atmosphere that existed under the previous chair. And I was fully persuaded at that time that the school board would be better served by a different chair. I am still of that mind. I would not expect, after 7 months as chair, that you would be nearly as proficient or as efficient or as effective as you will be after 11 months or 12 months. In fact, I can honestly say, in my opinion, that each month you have gotten better in your role as chair. We all have different personalities, and so we will all, if given the opportunity to preside differently. But in terms of your capacity to chair this board, I find no fault in that. And I'm sitting as the newest member who has been on the receiving end of your abruptness from time to time. But so haven't we all. And I have been on the receiving end of votes that have not carried. I have been on the receiving end of much of the disappointment that I've experienced when I didn't get something that I wanted. But I have never felt that I have been treated unfairly or any more disrespectfully than I deserved, because I know how I am. So to this end, I'm not so sure that, and I think the specific ask was that you return to 5 minutes of, that doesn't work. That's not going to work, because that's not who we are. Mrs. Messenger is not a 5-minute person. She gets said what she wants to say, and it's done in 30 seconds. She doesn't need 5 minutes to let you know where she stands. And the fact that Mr. Kennedy and I disagree, it doesn't take us 5 minutes to figure out which side we're going to be on, or Mr. Hopes, whom we have agreed and disagreed. We are simply a collegial body, and that's all that the public expects us to be. They expect us to exercise the gifts that we have, such as they may be. We have 2 educators in our midst up here. We have 2 lawyers in our midst up here. We have a person with 35 years of administrative experience in healthcare. That's a great board. That's a great board. And I don't feel we need to tinker with that to meet some ephemeral appearance. I just think we ought to just try to keep working hard, doing the best that we can, and being as respectful of each other as we should, and acknowledging that none of us has all of the answers. We all have something to contribute, and let us be patient enough to do that, because there are 49,000 kids counting on us, and about 3,000 teachers, I believe I'm told, employees, counting on us. So I'm not in a hurry, and I've seen the people here. These are professional people. They know what the job entails. They know what's required. I remember when we first voted down the effort to meet once a month. That's not enough. I don't want to revisit that. I wasn't here when they voted on this, or when you all voted, if you did, on this 5-minute limit and all of that. But I appreciate the fact that we are able to discuss without feeling inhibited in any way. And so I'm not quite so sure where this is supposed to be headed or how this is supposed to come up, since nobody has owned up to putting it on the agenda today. But I, for one, am, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't see anything that's broken here.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Host. Board Member Kennedy.
No, wait a minute now.
I'm sorry.
That was
No, Board Member Goldman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Board Member Kennedy?
First of all, Reverend Golden, you went over your 5 minutes. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right.
Really, he just takes it from me that I.
So it evens it out. It evens it out. Yeah. So.
and Reverend Golden, I don't think we're broke, but I think we need a little tweaking to kind of get back to, Dr. Hopes, you hit it well. It was an honest assessment. We had some issues of communication and personality. We went to master board training, and one of the pieces that we came out with that has really served us well is the 5-minute rule, and everybody gets a chance to speak before anybody else speaks twice. And it's simple, and it's easy, and it was very, very effective. And I don't think we need to make any wholesale changes, but I think we do need to get back to that because it did serve us really well. And we have slipped from it. I'm certainly as guilty as anybody else. I talk too much sometimes and I'm not paying attention, which is nice to have a timekeeper over there to keep me in line. And when I've had an issue with Mr. Minor's chairmanship, I've let him know. He's respectfully heard me out. He has addressed it or dealt with it in one way or another. So, but I would like to see us get back to that kind of, that was an action of this board going through that training and going through that discussion and coming up with those parameters. So I'd like to see us try to, at minimum, get back to that. So, as far as, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, as far as a meeting schedule, I certainly would like to keep our 2 a month. If we wanted to explore something about having an evening meeting and a daytime meeting, I know we would catch a little bit of trouble or a little bit of pushback on holding an earlier meeting, but we do have to be mindful of our demands on staff. And I think we have seen, especially a few meetings over the last few months, that we as board members, I think I said this last meeting, like, you think we're having a long day, imagine how long the day that staff is having, because we got here at 2 to start something, and they've been working since 8, 9 in the morning. So that's it. I mean, I'm open to that possibility, but I do agree with Dr. Hope that we should get back to that. Those agreed upon parameters that we did in master board training. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Kennedy. Vice Chair Messenger.
I'll talk quick. You're right. I really usually use less than 5 minutes, just because I'm not a preacher that's gonna, pontificate for whatever that was. So just
Zing.
that's just not who I am. I try to be matter of fact as much as possible, and I'm more like that because I have found that sometimes when we're sitting up here, we are so concerned, I think, about the cameras or the news or whatever, that I think we actually dance around things too much. And I think that harms all of us from being able to really get to what we're really talking about. So I try really hard to make sure I don't do that. But I actually wasn't at the meeting. Well, I was at the meeting, but I had to leave early because I had a doctor's appointment, where they decided on the 5 minutes and the rules. But I have to say that I do think that worked effectively, and I'm in support of those 5 minutes and the policy that had been created. I also wanted to reiterate something that Dr. Hopes did say, which kind of was a belief and a mindset that I think that all of us should have, that if a board member has a request for an agenda item, it should be placed on the agenda, because we are all equal in vote. And so no matter what, it should be on there. So I 100% agree with that. But really, my understanding of this discussion was not going to be a discussion of the chair, but I thought my understanding of this discussion was going to be more about what Mr. Kennedy just alluded to, which was timing of workshops and meetings and things. So that was just my understanding, I thought, when this originally got requested. So I don't know.
That was my understanding too. I apologize if that was my understanding.
That's all I got. I'm looking
Thank
for
you.
30 seconds to spare.
Thank you, Vice Chair Messenger. Okay. Well, thank you all for your comments. I think we are adjourned from our workshop. We're getting together in 45 minutes, so enjoy. I think we're on schedule here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Right.